Once you have an outline, you need to prioritize, document, and test detailed guidance. We want to do this in a way that ensures that the value we get from the content is way higher than the cost of creating it. What we don't want to do is simply go ahead and create all the content. This is a huge mistake that many organizations make. They assume it's all or nothing. Instead, we want to be agile. We need to prioritize. And you can see how easy that is to do in AirManual. For content that's very high priority, we should also set a deadline, decide who's going to document it and who's going to review it. For any content that isn't very high priority, we don't need to do anything just now. We can come back to it later. As well as prioritizing what pages to create, we should prioritize the content that we actually need in each page. What we want to do is document just enough for the page to be useful. So here's how it looks to create an SOP in AirManual. We open the document editor and add in a guided checklist. Then we list out the steps needed to complete this task. It's worth noting a couple of points that will make this SOP really easy to use. The first is that we've used a really clear title that describes the task. We've called it Run a Demo Call and not just demos or customer calls, so that it's obvious what this page is about. The second is that each step is also really clear and easy to follow too. The secret is to start your page titles and checklist steps with a verb, the doing word. So instead of having a step called Customer Needs, we have one called Review Customer Needs. It sounds trivial, but it makes a big difference when communicating with the rest of the team. Once we've added the high-level steps, we may still need a little more guidance to help people from making the most common mistakes. So you can add checkboxes, help guidance, form inputs, screenshots, videos, and so on, all straight into the document. But try not to go overboard. Sometimes users see that they can add screenshots and decide to add them to every step. Too much detail actually makes the checklist more difficult to use. So only add it where it's really needed. So we've prioritized and created a checklist. What we don't want to do now is just assume that that's ready to use. In fact, the one thing I can guarantee is that it won't be perfect, not the first time. There's a fantastic book called The Checklist Manifesto, and if you've read it, you'll know that it's written by a surgeon who actually looked at industries where checklists are needed in life or death situations. One example being in the aviation industry, where airlines have specialists whose full-time job is creating checklists to help pilots and co-pilots avoid catastrophe when something goes wrong. And despite being the best in the business, they know that when they test their checklists, fortunately, in a simulator, there will always be something that doesn't go to plan. Someone will misinterpret a step and the virtual plane will crash into a mountain. So it's really important that you do test your checklists before you hand them over. You'll spot issues that occur, and in my experience, it's often that team members don't even have access to tools that they need to complete some of the steps in a checklist. So in this example, the sales rep is trying to use this SOP, but forgets to check how much time everyone has at the start of a call. So we can quickly update that in the tool, update it, publish it, and now everyone will have that updated. Because a cool feature in AirManual is that any updates you make can be applied to any checklist that are currently in progress. This is helpful when testing, but really helpful when making updates to a checklist that several team members are all using at the same time. So this approach of prioritizing, documenting at a high level and then testing is a game changer. Back in 2021, where we were working with an enterprise customer who was trying to help a senior business analyst free up her time, she'd created an incredible dashboard that the directors loved, but it was taking her 3 hours to update each week. And they knew it would take months to automate, so that wasn't an option. But it was a task that could be delegated or outsourced. So with this clear business case, we asked the business analyst document it as a simple SOP. We offered help, but they decided to go ahead on their own. But when we next met, we discovered that she'd gone a little overboard. Rather than simply document the key steps involved, she documented everything she could think of about the dashboard, including most of the steps to recreate it. The problem was this had taken her 3 days. and the end result was unusable for the one task we needed to delegate. Not only that, but the whole experience backed up her belief that documenting was a waste of time and never worked. Luckily, her manager could see the issue, and so we gave her some more guidance on how to document. Restarting from scratch, it took just 2 hours and 1 hour to test, and this time it worked. So whilst those first 3 days were a write-off, the second 3 hours, that was time that she recouped in just 1 week. And of course, over the whole year, she would get back well over 100 hours of time, which she could use on other, more enjoyable tasks. And that's what we're doing here. We're making sure that the value of the guidance is way higher than the cost. By using AirManual to prioritize, document it at a high level, and then test, you can achieve this goal.